Quite the talent he is. Proper chatterbox yada. If you're keen, it'll be brilliant. Today, we're going to keep it simple. I'll bark out a basic command and you watch. Keen to know? He'll set your tail wagging. Does mine, hence why I'm backing him. Right then, Wookie here. Do take a seat, won't you? Give us your full attention while we listen to my pal, Yada.
Fully endorsed by the Wookiee. Here we are to continue our series on Luminaries. It's been a while. I would imagine well over a week, maybe going on 2 weeks since we have done our Luminary series. We're at the conclusion of the second chapter of Yoel. It is a magnificent feast for the eyes and for the mind. It is getting to the point where God's going to speak about the miraculous signs that he's going to display at the end. And what we need to know is that as we approach Teruah 7 years from now, that's the conclusion of the time of troubles. It's 10 days before Yahweh will return with Dode, that it's going to be the greatest show on earth, and that many things are going to happen here on earth and in the heavens, all in support of God's agenda. And as I say, there's nothing in human history that compares to what we're approaching. It is indeed sad that 2,000 years ago, nincompoops named Paul, Luke, Mark, all in the same little posse, decided to create the myth of a Jesus Christ, and they attributed the second chapter of Yoel to that time and to the birth of their church. And Christians are so utterly foolish, even to this day, that they don't see a problem with pretend Peter having words stuffed in his mouth by Luke, who was nowhere to be found at the time, claiming that said Peter was citing the book of Yoel, which means Yahweh's God, which completely destroys the whole concept of the New Testament, to claim that what was being witnessed as they described people speaking gibberish, people speaking languages from all over the region, with the exception of the only language that actually mattered if you're speaking for God, which would be Hebrew. That this was somehow predicted by Yoel in the second chapter, when in fact Yoel in the second chapter speaks of what we are going to witness 7 years from now and what will manifest all the way up to and through the time of trouble. They were off by 2,000 years, and it's obvious. So when that was quoted to justify the birth of the church, why didn't somebody say, excuse me, Shavuot is not about the birth of anything. It is about the harvest of mature grain. And nothing is being harvested now. And this particular prophecy speaks of a time 2,000 years from now. But you see, the religious don't think. God, however, provides us what we need if we want to be circumspect. And he said through the prophet Yoel, which means Yahweh is God, I will provide. Nathan, I will offer and give, bestowing and producing bright and beautiful signs, handsome and conspicuous metaphors. This is Mopeth, miraculous and awe-inspiring symbols corresponding to the appropriately communicated types of upcoming events. It's a compound of ma, which means to contemplate the meaning of yesaf, that which beautifies, in the heavens and on the earth, blood, which is dam, and fire, etz, along with columns of smoke, upright pillars of fine particulates of carbon. Yoel, Yahweh's God, Joel 2:30. Think of this for a moment. There's been a very long time since God intervened miraculously. During the Exodus, but that was 3,450 years ago. God has been hands off. He's said that he doesn't like men very much and would rather be separate from humanity. And therefore, there haven't been signs in the sky, signs here on earth. God has used words. He's spoken through people. He's made himself available through such communication. But signs, conspicuous metaphors, no. That's all going to change. And it's going to change rather rapidly and rather dramatically as we move through the time of trouble. And even then, you're not going to see much that is profoundly miraculous until the last 3.5 years when the two witnesses arrive, and they will be Chinook, who is Yada, and Elia. And from that point on, God's going to do subtle things initially, like bring Elia and Yada back from Shamma'in. I guess that's pretty profound. It's going to clear away the Temple Mount so that the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque don't give Yada hives, because he would break out in hives if he had to be near those monstrosities. Going to reinstall the tent of the restoring witness. That's a pretty neat feat. He's going to retrieve the Aaron Bereth and place it in its proper location. And he's going to make these two individuals speaking for him exceedingly powerful, such that nothing can harm them, such that they can convey the message brilliantly. And above them, you're going to see a banner that is conspicuously displayed. That's going to have programs on it like this. It'll have citations from the Yada Yahweh series. It'll have many signs from God. And he's going to raise what he calls his Nesh, which is now found in the series Yada Yahweh. I want to read about it so you're up to speed before it occurs. So you can go to Yada Yada. I would encourage you to do so. All the books are free. YadaYah.com. And so beyond all of this, as we move to Teruah, which is the conclusion of the time of trouble, Yahweh is going to be extraordinary in his heavy hand. At this point, he's done with all of it. He's fed up to here. He's exceedingly frustrated, angry. And as the final harvest transpires of Teruah, the day of the herald, not only are the final covenant members going to be streaming from the 3 dimensions of earth into the 7 dimensions of Shamma'im as a river of light. At that time, God's going to dispatch the 4 chariots. The dark one will carry religious and overtly political, militant Jews to Sheol. The red one will be circling the whole region and will be eliminating all of the belligerents who have come to harm Jews and to destroy Jerusalem. And there will be millions of them. And that's why he is described as the man dressed appropriately in red. There will be a white chariot that retrieves from all around the world every Yehud and Yisraelite that is insufficiently tarnished to have simply been killed or hauled away into Sheol. They will be very marginally political and unreligious. And it will bring those who can be purged of their religious guilt into Jerusalem to benefit from the sacrifice of the Adam HaParah. Then there will be a dappled chariot that will bring those Goyim whose attitudes and aptitudes are functional for the work that needs to be done going forward into Jerusalem, also to be purged of any residual guilt. That's a lot in terms of bright and beautiful signs. Would you agree? Well, that's just the beginning of it. You see, all of those that are dispatched attempting to destroy Israel and annihilate Jews are going to be incinerated by Yahweh, and then they're going to be washed away. And then God's going to restore the earth to the conditions found in Eden, while eliminating all traces of the religious and those things that are manifestations of religion. He's going to clean house. That's pretty extraordinary. Nothing else like that has certainly ever happened. And then that group that's going to be brought into Jerusalem is going to watch the final act between, well, it's next to the final act, really, between Rahab, who is Satan, Donald Trump, and Yada as the Adamah Parah, bloody red man of the earth, who is a productive bull. And he will allow Rahab to brutally slay him. And it will be his final act of defiance. And the soul of the Adamah Parah will rise, and with it, the spirit of Rahab will fall. So it is extraordinary. And as part of all of this, you find the final fulfillments of the first and most important prophecy in the Torah, that of the Gadol and Katan Meorth, the greater and lesser luminaries. As you can see, that Wookiee is about catching up on his reading here. It's important if you're going to be the host of the show. If you're going to provide an endorsement, you better keep up on your materials. He's ahead of many people in this reading. There he is. See, the fact that the books are upside down doesn't bother a Wook. He might be dyslexia for all we know. Dyslexic. Go to Wookiee Cam now. Rich is just having a field day here. Trying to be serious, talking about important events, and I'm sure the Wookiee will be barking at the time. And so it is a time when the greater and lesser Meorth, these luminaries, are going to be fulfilling the final Moedim, as was predicted in the first chapter of the Torah. And they are the sun and the moon, symbolically represented by the sun and the moon. They are not the sun and the moon. They are actually men, the most important men in God's story, the most repetitively deployed men in God's story. And so we're going to read about signs in the heavens, because he is talking about the sun and the moon and what's going to happen to them on this day at this time. And that's also part of these beautiful signs: handsome, conspicuous, miraculous, awe-inspiring symbols of the events that are playing out in the spiritual realm and on earth. Damn is a most intriguing term. We learn in Numbers 19 that the Adamah Parah is bloody and is bloodied. And we learn in Yashayah in the 63rd chapter that the man from Edom who saves many is drenched in blood. He is bloody red. And if you look at Adamah, what you have is a word that begins with the symbol of a bull. He's the productive bull as the Adamah Parah, followed by dam, blood. He's a bloody bull, Adam. But with the ending, you have the picture of a man standing up, reaching up to God. He's a bloody bull of a man. He is a man in the role of a bloody bull. That's what the blood is all about. It's just so sick that eschatology has rendered this blood and this fire as if it was a symbol where the moon was bloody and the sun was on fire, but that's not what this says. The sign on the earth is going to be blood. Damn, it's the Adamah. Parah, this bloody red man of the earth. And he's going to be a burnt offering. There's going to be fire. And just as Yahweh did with Eliah 2,888 years prior to this day, where he ignited the fire under the sacrifice of the bull, at Eliah's call and urging to eliminate the religious and political influences in Israel, God's going to ignite the fire under the Adamah Parah. And it's that smoke which is going to rise, filled with ash, that's going to be so transformative, purging the religion out of the attendees who were brought in those chariots by Yahweh, in accordance with Numbers 5 of the adulterous woman, who is finally purged. At the same time, he's going to release copious amounts of water from underneath the Temple Mount. You're going to have water, smoke, ash, fire, and blood, all from the bloody red man of the earth. Prophecy is very clear when you know the terms Yah was using and what's going to happen, why, to whom, when, and where. Now, in this case, as with the others, it should be known that the Bashar, this is the herald that is heralding the return of the king, Dod, and of our God, Yahweh, that he is shedding his own Bashar body. And it's going to be a welcome relief. The numbskulls out there, and there are many of them, who are convinced that human sacrifice is a no-no, and therefore you can't have a sacrifice of this sort. Dod couldn't have fulfilled Passover. That would be human sacrifice. For your numbskulls, the myth of Jesus, didn't he die? Was he supposed to be human? That doesn't work, does it, for you? Okay, but let's step away from that for a moment. What makes us human? Every animal has a bashar, so what's the difference with one animal versus another? Every animal has a nefesh. So if every animal has a nefesh, every animal has a bashar body, what makes the human bashar and soul any different than any other animal? You know what the answer is? Nothing. What makes humans different is a nesama, a conscience. And that conscience, when integrated with a nefesh, can't be transformed, which is the symbolism of the fire, going from material and organic to three-dimensional, from three-dimensional to seven-dimensional. It's going from being a physical being to light and energy. And so it is only the bashar, which is replaceable, E equals MC squared. You go back and forth between energy and flesh anytime you want when you're a being of greater dimensions than three. So the soul is not risked either. The soul survives. It's just a physical body, which is meaningless. Your body is going to return to the dust of the earth, ash to ash. So why not give it for a cause, since it's so easily replaceable? This is actually a celebration because the Bashar, the Adam of Perah, realizes that the ensuing fire and smoke associated with his sacrifice is going to be beneficial to all of those that Yahweh has brought into Jerusalem to be purged of their religiosity. Finally, as we know, the fire and columns of smoke serve as an ode to an earlier time when Yahweh walked with his people during the Exodus. He was seen as a pillar cloud during the day and as fire by night, symbols that should be apparent. And it was in the Torah that Yahweh revealed that dam, blood, was to be understood metaphorically as the life of the nephesh soul. This is the apparent reason for that lesson. All things considered and all perceptions coalescing into a single portrait. At the end, Yahweh is bringing us back to the beginning, with the last chapter in man's story reflecting the very first. This is the ongoing narrative on the Maoreth, the luminaries, especially when the previous statement is melded into the next pronouncement. From Yahweh's perspective, they are both Gadol, highly distinguished and exceedingly influential when deployed as his oath, his wonderful symbols and brilliant examples as obvious signs. They oath serve man and God as illustrious examples of consent, freely offering miraculous proof. They are mimshala, prominent and powerful, because they convey God's dominion and authority, governing its sovereigns by drawing pictures with words. Therefore, Yahweh's prophecy of the last days through Yoel becomes especially revealing at this point as we contemplate this portrait of the last days. And it's all seen through the lens of the creation account. The prophet continues, citing Yahweh. I will provide, offering and bestowing, right? I'm going to back up here so we just keep it all in context. So this is the statement I shared with you just moments ago. I will provide, offering and bestowing bright and beautiful signs, serving as handsome and conspicuous metaphors, which are miraculously and awe-inspiring symbols of upcoming events, which enhance one's appearance in the heavens and on the earth. Blood, along with fire, along with columns of smoke and ash. That was Joel 20:30. So that leads to the following. The sun, the Shemesh, it's going to be overthrown. It's going to be replaced, changed by turning into something less reliable. Chapak, he will be overturned and weakened, flipped, and converted. The Niphal, imperfect, third person, masculine, singular. Becoming unknown and obscure, dimmed due to ignorance, made less significant with a lower status, and the moon to blood, all to approach the presence of the day of Yahweh, arriving with the Gadol, the great and influential one, and the Yareh, the awesomely respected and revitalized one. Yoel, Yahweh's God, Joel 2:31. To have an appreciation for this, you have to be a student of the Mizmor. And throughout the Mizmor, Yahweh, those are Psalms, by the way, Yahweh is very open about his and Dod's frustration that the one that he anointed as the Messiah, the one that he called the chosen one, the one through whom he said that he was going to establish the covenant, the one person he said, he is my son and I am his father. It God is exceedingly disappointed that humanity has discredited him, has essentially overthrown him as the returning king and the Messiah, having replaced him with a false god, Jesus. And it's just getting worse and worse. Apart from those who have read the Yada Yawa series that I have written, no one on this planet recognized that Dode is the Messiah, the very Son of God, the chosen one, our Savior for having fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakodim, and the one who is returning with Yahweh. That was all overturned by Paul and Christianity. I don't say that casually. You can read this series, 5 volumes of it. I systematically dismantle every aspect of the Christian New Testament and prove emphatically that Dode is the Messiah and that Jesus is nothing but a crude counterfeit, a fake. And so the very Son of God was overturned. The Savior was replaced, turning him into something vastly less reliable. Read the 89th Mizmor, which I've probably translated 8-10 times in these 30 some odd volumes, almost 40 now, so that you have some idea just how upset God is over the replacement of his Son. And the Son is the Gadol, the great luminary. And God says when he returns, he's going to return as brilliant as the sun. God says that when Dode returns with him, he's going to be Elion, the full influence of God in our presence. So after a long period of time, when the sun, the greater luminary, Dode, has been overthrown, replaced, and changed into something far less credible, becoming essentially unknown, obscure, and dimmed due to ignorance. And the moon, who is the Katan Mayor, the one who reflects the sun's light, is going to be bloodied at that moment. It's going to be sacrificed voluntarily. And that sacrifice will be done at a moment that remnant that is purged by his sacrifice will be able to approach the presence of this day of Yahweh, arriving with the Gadol. God couldn't make it any clearer. He's arriving with the Gadol. That's Dode, the great and influential one. And when he comes back, that one who offered the sacrifice as the moon, the lesser luminary, well, we learn in the presentation of the Choder that the 7th of 7 spirits that is bequeathed to him is the spirit of Yara, of being awesomely respected. And so here, after mentioning the moon and the Gadol as the great and influential one, rather than referring to the lesser luminary as Katan, he's now called Yari. Because God, Dode, our king, and everyone in attendance now respects what he has done. They're inspired by what he has done. Now, I can tell you that you haven't heard Yoel, Yahweh's God, Joel, 231 explained to you in those terms, have you? But that's the way it was conveyed by God to be understood and appreciated at this time. The most insurmountable obstacle preventing the reunion of Yisrael and Yahweh on Kippurim, of course, is the breach of the Bereth covenant. And unfortunately, the chosen people are estranged from God because they have violated rather than accepted the 5 conditions of that covenant. And of course, to resolve that, they would have to stop being religious. They would have to become receptive and responsive. Telling Jews they can't be religious is a tall order. The problem, according to God, is that his people are oblivious to the fact that the benefits of the covenant were provided through his firstborn son. You may have heard of him. He was king. He united Yisrael. He defended Yisrael. He was anointed the Messiah of Yisrael. He was called the chosen one. God said of him, he is my son. I am his father. God said of him, I will cut, establishing the covenant with him. He wrote the great lines of Isaiah 9 about Dod, about Devarim 18 about Dod. And it's ultimately because Dod returned to fulfill the spring Mikre as he had foretold. Pesach Matzah B'Kodem. He was crucified on Passover in 33 CE. Not Jesus, who was nothing but a myth. Therefore, more than just acknowledge the terms of the Bereth, Yisrael must accept the realization that the benefits were delivered during Chag Matzah by their Messiah and King. That's why Yahweh tells them in Zechariah 12 that remnant is going to mourn, literally cry, when they see Yahweh return with the one that they have pierced. As he would cry for a firstborn. Well, sadly, overwhelmingly, Jews have Chapach, turned Dod into a far less reliable character, essentially overthrowing and replacing him. And worse, they created Christianity, which is predicated entirely upon identity theft. And of course, replacement foolology. Therefore, the path home begins with the recognition of the Gadol Mayor, of the greater luminary, something provided exclusively by the Katan Mayor, the moon, because he reflects the brilliance of the sun, particularly during the darkness of the long night. And so it is the Katan Mayor's blood that is shed on this day as the moon restoring the sun's acclaim. And that makes all of this possible. So let's be clear. Dam, blood, as the door to the cleansing nature of water is the beating heart of Adam. You see, in Paleo-Hebrew, the original alphabet, and I hope everyone has the opportunity to download the Paleo-Hebrew font that we have at yadayad.com. It's a significant improvement over the old. It is, as you read right from left, Adam, it's a bull's head and also a ram's with the doorway. And then mem, which is water. So it is the bull and the ram who provide the doorway or the opening to cleansing and life. And even then you'll notice that it is conveyed, dam is conveyed in the middle of it, Daleth Mem, by the addition of that bull and ram's head. representing the two men who will have shed their blood for God's people on the Moedim, just as the prophecy so long ago foretold. It is by standing up for them during the Moedim as the restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony that this reconciling miracle is manifest, becoming Adamah, the bull and ram, opening the door to the cleansing and life-giving properties of water, as men standing up, reaching up, and pointing up to God. Adamah, bloody red man of the earth. Hopefully, after this prophecy and then spelling it all out, you will never again slight Adamah by relegating it to nothing more than dirt. Now, should you be curious, the Hebrew word to convey diminish is gara. Should Yahweh have wanted to say decrease, he would have used ma'at. Yoel would have scribed amam had God said that the sun would dim, darken, or grow faint. But he didn't say any of those things, did he? He chose shafak, hafak, instead, and it speaks of what has been done to Dod's reputation and how important it is that that is restored to keep people from becoming precluded, continuing to be precluded from covenant participation. Now, as a result of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, in the eyes of the world, God's firstborn, our Messiah, King, and Savior, has been hafak, overthrown. He's been replaced. And the hafak substitutions, indeed counterfeit, is wholly unreliable. Less than a flicker of a candle in the wind when compared to the sun. Dod's accolades, his achievements, have been chesek, obscured by the religious to the point of becoming essentially unknown. In fact, without Yada Yahweh, the soon-to-be 38 volumes available at yadayah.com, the realization that the covenant was cut and established by Dod when he fulfilled Pesach Matzah Bakurim in year 4000 Yah, 33 CE, as he had foretold, well, it would have remained chosek, completely unknown. Therefore, this prophecy explains how that wrong will ultimately be righted. And to be right, let's also acknowledge the fact that this does not say that either the moon will take on a reddish hue, and by contrast here, God has said that the one represented by the moon will become bloodied. This will transpire as a result of Satan's attempt to replace his son, who serves as the sun in this metaphor. There will be an attempted coup perpetrated against the moon, who is reflecting the sun's light, and it will be in the act of trying to replace the reliable witness of the Maor that Rahab, the dim-witted confabulator, the copper con, will make one last-ditch effort to obscure reality so as to be venerated in Dod's stead. Although he won't call himself that. Well, this prophecy is profoundly relevant in all of its implications and is particularly, I would have to say it is particularly moronic for Twistians to seek out blood moons and then ascribe their dim-witted eschatology to them. This prophecy was previously pilfered by Luke to justify the birth of, well, a church that has no prophecy to support it. And it was written in the 75 CE, 40 years after the fact. And by claiming it now, Twistians affirm that their religion is based upon the faulty foundation of gross misinterpretation, misapplication. And this prophecy is addressing the Gadol of the Torah on the day of Yahweh, not the puny counterfeit men allegedly killed millennia ago. And while this is the ongoing story of the Katan supporting the Gadol, as we were educated and enlightened by God in the opening chapter of the Torah, it does not obfuscate the fact that mankind has made a mess of this planet. There is more than sufficient obscuring phenomenon around to darken the skies and to occlude light, particularly after the world is enveloped in a nuclear holocaust. However, that isn't the message conveyed here at the moment. Now, if I may, the reason that the one designated as the Yarach moon is being bloodied on this day to restore the dignity stolen from the one representing the sun is so that the mortal remnant of Yisrael can la pene, approach the presence of Yahweh, because he is arriving with the Haggadol, the most influential and distinguished one, on Yom Kippurim, the day of reconciliations, 10 days hence, as a result of what transpires on Yom Teruah, this day of the herald. The Katan, younger and lesser Maor, luminary, becomes Yareh, respected by all who prevail as a result. His sacrifice is Yareh, inspiring. It's Yareh, revitalizing and restoring. As a result, Yahweh and his favorite co-workers are offering an all-expense-paid trip out of harm's way. What follows serves to reassure God's people that we have properly presented these events just as they will transpire. It is one of the most uplifting prophecies ever written. And it will come to pass at that moment in time that every aspect of the one receiving the benefits of the relationship will call out to. They will summon, welcome, and meet, while making a proclamation in the name of Yahweh to be spared and to be delivered, to be protected from danger, and to be saved from harm. Indeed, within the Mount of Sion, where the signs are posted along the way, and in Jerusalem, a source of guidance and teaching on reconciliation, there will be an escape for deliverance for this remnant, even rebirth for the newborns, just as relationally and beneficially Yahweh said and has long promised. And among the survivors within this remnant are those benefiting from the relationship who Yahweh will have invited and he will welcome. Yoel, Yahweh is God, Joel 2:32. Now, there is a propensity among translators to present the initial thought in a way that everyone who calls out in the name of Yahweh will be saved. But since both kol and the verb kara is conveyed in their singular forms, the concluding message of this chapter isn't addressing everyone. It is instead the entirety of a person, their heart, their mind, their soul, which is being presented as eager to summon Yahweh and to proclaim his name. It is therefore their complete devotion to Yahweh that leads them to being malat, protected from danger and saved from harm. And when we compare Malat to Yasha, these passionately and relationally committed souls are being protected. They're not being saved. This is akin to being invited back into the garden with the release from it predicated upon being receptive, responsive, and reliable going forward. Moreover, at this time, the only people who are around in Jerusalem will be those that God has invited. And so every one of them is going to benefit from the sacrifice of the Adam Uprah. Everyone else has been wiped out, disposed of. And so that final group, they all are going to call out in the name of Yahweh, because that will be all that will be left. With the events of the second chapter of Yoel taking place on or before Yom Teruah, we are reminded that we are on Zion, the ridgeline between Dod's home and the city of Dod and Yahweh's and the covenant home on the top of the Temple Mount of Moriah. And therefore, we are in Jerusalem. This is God's country. Also revealing those gathered around the Temple Mount are Paletha. They are a remnant. They are comprised of newborns, with the beneficiaries knowing Yada for a matter of hours, albeit following 7 years of scrutiny, and then under the most extraordinary circumstances. We know that all of them will have only known Yahweh for a matter of hours, because those who were familiar enough with Yahweh to accept the terms and conditions of his covenant and benefit from the Moedim would have been part of the Teruah gleaning. So these are the mortal souls that were brought in from around the world after that gleaning, who didn't know enough to capitalize upon it, and therefore have known Yahweh for a matter of hours, although it's under really extraordinary circumstances. But they're newborn babes. And so we are reminded that Yahweh is fulfilling a promise. He is doing what he professed, beginning with the opening chapter of the Torah. The final Moedim, they're being fulfilled. And this is happening courtesy of the Maorith, the luminaries. Occurring when, where, how, and why they were originally designated. And the result is that the survivors are being afforded a clean slate, a new beginning with a return to the garden, where they will have every opportunity over the ensuing 1,000 years to become covenant. And that is why Kara is the actionable root of Mikre, invitations to be called out and meet. I'm also inspired and impressed with what we have learned by examining Yoel to properly assess Yahweh's intent with his Maorith, both the Gadol and the Katan. And that means true, I think it's a wonderful way for us to conclude this systematic review of Yoel as part of our Maorith Luminary series, Basics, at this time. God said, "You should sound the shofar, doing so in Zion, among the signs posted along the way, so that you publicly and vocally speak of the future, providing a warning and an explanation on my set-apart mountain. And so we shall. Everyone who lives in the land and on earth should be agitating and aggressive, roused to anger. They should be antagonistic, because the day of Yahweh's return is fast approaching. Indeed, it is near. Yoel 2:1. In a time of darkness, this ignorance and confusion, when so many are oblivious and much is obscured, of calamity and calumny as a result of too little illumination, a day of enchanters blowing smoke and demonic spirits casting spells and using smoke screens. Gloomy and miserable, with great hardship during this time of troubles, reflecting the analogous, swarthy blackness of Shakar, of Satan's dawn, which will be spread out and displayed upon the mountains with a vast swarm of people and a genuinely enormous army, with the nation too numerous to be counted, and the likes of which has not existed previously, even to the dawn of time. And after this, it will never occur again. During the ensuing years, at any place, time, or generation. 2:2. As it approaches, it will be consumed by fire. And behind it, in the end, it is set ablaze, devoured in the flames, as the land and the earth comes to resemble the Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, appearing before it. But behind it, in the end, it will be desolate and unpopulated, a wasteland where the word is questioned, such that there will be no escape for the fugitives and no deliverance for these refugees, as they will cease to exist. There will be the visual appearance of Swiss stallions. This phenomenon could be perceived as distinct charioteers, and declared purpose will be to separate, thereby causing them to move very quickly and adroitly, canvassing the area. Accordingly, the sound of the loudly roaring voice of these chariots upon the summits of the mountains as they leap about, springing into the air, is like the crackling of a flame, as if clattering swords, even with the roaring sound of glowing gases, as fire devours the stubble and the chaff. Such is the nature of this vast army and countless throng of militants, as it is drawn up, arranged, and positioned for war. 2:5. From its appearance and the very presence when facing them, the nations, their people, and their militaries will tremble. They will shake, writhing in anguish, terrorized and tormented. Every face becomes flushed and pale. We're witnessing that now in the Arab fiefdoms, aren't we, with Iran? As trained and equipped warriors, they charge ahead, aggressively chasing prey. As men prepared for battle, these militant soldiers ascend barriers and walls. Each individual travels in his own route, and yet they do not renounce their pledge. They do not turn back or swerve from their path or the conduct that defines their destiny. 2:7. The fact that they're kind of all on their own route explains why they can't be wiped out by attacks from the air. And they'll make it from Iran into Israel. The fact that they do not turn from their pledge tells us they're Muslims, and they're adhering to the Pledge of Aqaba, which is essential to Islam, where all Muslims pledge to wage war against all mankind. This defines their destiny. An individual never presses or bumps into his brother, never crowding their comrades. They are spread out, making their annihilation from drones and from the air impossible. The combative man, in his own way, on his religious track, walks, traveling without making contact with another. With their weapons, they attack as their missiles fall, all without relenting. It's going to be a rough go, Israel. This is Alaska 2.0. They rush violently, surging greedily, while raging and charging into the city. Through the buildings and around walls and barriers, they run swiftly and intensely. Into the houses they climb, even through windows, entering like thieves. Yoel 2:9. This is a reenactment of the Kabar raid by Muhammad and Alaska on 10:7. Then it says the sun and moon will mourn in dimming, such that the luminaries will have their knowledge, radiant brilliance, and enlightenment taken away by the harvest as they are withdrawn during the ingathering. God's going to remove his covenant family and therefore those who would know and warn, leaving Israel for a time completely alone. It's a time when Israel's going to have to come to terms with their prior antagonism towards God through religion, politics. Yahweh will have offered by having given Kolhu his voice. He's offering that now, and his voice will return. By the appearance and presence of the Cholhu, is especially capable, influential, and always unyielding one. This is because exceedingly great is his favoritism and compassion, especially his devotion to camping out. So indeed, a potent and powerful, influential force able to complete this mission is he who engages and acts upon it and upon his world and word. Truly valuable and important, distinguished and intense is the day of Yahweh. It will be exceedingly awesome. So who can comprehend it and measure up, enduring it, demonstrating he has what is required to seize this opportunity and to capitalize upon it? And so now, especially at this moment in time, prophetically declares Yahweh, you should choose to return so you can be restored eternally to me, God says, enduring forever with me, based upon my restoring witness and eternal testimony. By using your best judgment, by making an intelligent decision, by being disciplined and abstaining from consuming anything else, and by shedding tears of joy and of sorrow, weeping, while contemplating the reasons for mourning over all that has been lost and now gained. So disassociate your hearts and your minds, your thinking and inclinations, ripping and tearing away your longings and allegiances, and avoid your deceitful and treacherous garments. Return to Yahweh, your God, for indeed, he is compassionate and merciful. He is long-suffering and patient, and slow to anger, abounding in steadfast and loyal love. He will provide reassurance and encouragement, especially during this malevolent and miserable ordeal that is known as the time of trouble. We reached Yoel 2:13. Whoever knows Yada, acknowledging and appreciating what Yada has revealed, realizes and pays attention and comprehends, he will alter the mindset to enable the return and restoration by repairing the relationship, at least for those who had turned away. He will provide encouragement while changing attitudes so they relent by offering understanding. He will ensure that a remnant is spared. doing so in the end by those following him, with the benefit and blessing of a sacrifice, a gift freely offered in this chosen time and by this appointed one, who will be installed and set in this place for this purpose, literally woven into the story as part of a special relationship, even when he is overshadowed by Yahweh, your God. So sound the shofar in Zion. Among those signs posted along the way, you should choose to be set apart and special, dedicated to serving and consecrating a time of abstaining from what others are consuming. Of your own accord, you should announce and welcome this invitation offered to a select few in this highly restrictive assembly meeting. You will have chosen to be gathered as a family for the harvest, moving as a people from one place to another during this ingathering. You will have decided to be a community set apart, special, unique. You will want to collect and withdraw yourself and others in this harvest, a harvest of the most prominent and mature members of the community. Your desire will be to gather together and escort the children, many of whom are still adolescents, including even these infants who are nursing. That's the mortal remnant. And then the bridegroom. He will be coming out of his inner chamber. And the bride from her bridal chamber. Why? Because Numbers 19, the story of the red heifer, will have enabled the resolution of Numbers 5 and that of the adulterous woman, because Dod is the awaiting groom and Israel is the purified woman. For the purpose of understanding and making connections between the portico and colonnade leading to the temple, one with Boaz's name, the other the tribute to Dod, and approaching the altar and the implications of the sacrifice, of course, of the Adamah Parah. Those officiating will weep on their own accord. They're serving on behalf of Yahweh. And so they will say, you have emphatically chosen to do as requested and to demonstrate compassion and mercy by providing deliverance for your people, Yahweh. So do not allow your property as a share of that which was offered as an inheritance to become sullied or jeopardized by a simple slogan of the Goyim, all to determine who controls it. Why should they constantly say among the people, where is their God? So Yahweh will be envious, having his passions and jealousy for exclusivity in the relationship aroused for his land. And he will show mercy and compassion, sparing his people, this family. Yahweh provided the answer by responding, and he said to the people of his family, please take note, pay attention to me. I am reaching out to you by sending to you that which is associated with the expansive growth related to the wheat, which has been harvested, the freshly pressed and renewing wine, recently harvested and prepared for the heirs of the vineyard, and the glistening and brilliant oil from recently pressed olives, so that you will be abundantly satisfied with this fulfillment by this act. And I will no longer allow you to ever again be taunted or insulted, held in contempt or reviled among the foreigners or the nations, and pursuant to the northerner who has hidden his true identity. I will send far away from you, and I will banish him, exiling him as an outcast to a realm parched and desolate, ruinous and uninhabitable, plagued in anxiety and clothed in horror, with his face towards the sea and the eastern confrontation, and his rear end towards the sea of the end in the west. His stench will rise, and the foul odor and putrid smell of him will fester and ascend, for it is certain that he has done some exceedingly arrogant things. He's talking about Donald Trump, the ultimate man of repulsive odors, stench. He is going to serve recompense before he goes to Sheol, hell. And as he is stretched out for all to see, this foul excuse for a devil and human, that putrid smell is going to fester. But it's necessary for the world to have an appreciation for what it was spared from. And by this time, God has every reason to be exceedingly annoyed by him. All the while, Adamah, bloody red and grounded, this man of the earth representing Adam. You should never be intimidated. Don't ever fear. Don't be awestruck, neither concerned or distressed. You should choose to celebrate your situation, reflecting your positive attitude. You will have every reason to be joyful and to commemorate this and be pleased. This is because Yahweh, he is great, enriching and empowering, growth-oriented and nurturing. And so he is esteemed and nurturing as well for acting and engaging in this way for Yahweh. I was saying, yeah, at this point, he's the most famous man in the world, the most powerful man in the world. He is beloved in Israel. He is Rahab. He is the devil. And God's saying to the Adamah Parah, don't be concerned. I've got your back. It's all going to work out beautifully. Do not be distressed or concerned. Even, he says to the animals of the open environs, because the beautiful pastures and lovely dwelling places of the deserts are becoming verdant and growing. Surely the tree lifts up and bears its fruit. The fig tree and the vine give their vigor and their strength, as well as noble character. Rejoice over these favorable circumstances, children of Zion. Demonstrate a positive attitude and be elated with Yahweh your God, for he has provided for you a teacher and a guide, someone who offers an outpouring of directions regarding the Torah, as if the autumn rain, so that you can be right, so you can be vindicated. He has brought down for you an abundant shower of guidance and instruction, an outpouring of teaching to ponder, about being gleaned and growing thereafter, just as was intended from the very beginning. Yoel 2:23. So the threshing floors, they will be filled, and it will be fulfilled. It will be proclaimed satisfactory and finished at that time, with the pure grain, the most desirable, brightest, and radiant children of the most beautiful sun. The presses and the vats, they will be more than sufficient, as they are adequately filled, some even overflowing, all with new wine of a fresh inheritance, sweeter, with only brief fermentation, along with glistening, freshly and lightly pressed olives for oil. I will fulfill so as to complete the process of reconciliation and restoration, all by offering compensation, doing so for you, for the years that so quickly disappeared as meaningless, all as a result of those using ruinous trickery, artifice, and deceit, as they were devoured almost as if by a cankerworm, along with the destroyer that consumes in the end, and even the ravenous swarms from Gaza. My vociferous force as my valiant and capable one, the enriching and empowering one, brought in to this particular time of travail. Hagadol, the great, old, and important one, who, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, I will have sent to dispatch among you. Then you will be exceedingly well fed and be overwhelmingly satisfied. You will radiate a clear and brilliant light while extolling the name of Yahweh, your God, who for the benefit of this relationship is active, as he will engage marvelously and miraculously with you. And so, my people, this family of mine, they will not be humiliated or disrespected forevermore. 226. And you will know that I am in the midst, exceedingly close and near Yisrael, those who are mine, engaging and enduring with me as God. I am Yahweh, your God. There is no other. My family will never be disapproved, nor experience distress again throughout all time. Then it will literally come to pass at this very moment, without hesitation, during the last days, therefore, I will pour out my spirit upon the entirety of the herald and upon all who would hear the message. And your sons and your daughters, as well as your elderly, they will be inspired to speak as if they were prophets. They will mature, growing more capable once restored, able to receive revelations. The chosen who have made the right decision among the best of your young men by choosing to be consistently observant, well, they will see. And they will perceive these revelations that are communicated by God. And also upon the men who work and upon the women who serve in those days, I will bestow my spirit. 229. I will provide offering and bestowing bright and beautiful signs, serving as handsome and conspicuous metaphors, which are miraculous and awe-inspiring symbols pursuant to these upcoming events which enhance one's appearance in the heavens, but also on the earth. Blood and fire, along with columns of smoke and ash. The sun will be replaced, changed by turning into something less reliable, becoming unknown and obscure, dimmed due to ignorance, and the moon to blood, to approach the presence of the day of Yahweh, as he arrives with the Gadol, the great and influential one, and the Yare, the awesomely respected and revitalizing one. And it will come to pass at that moment, even for a finite time, that every aspect of the one receiving the benefits of the relationship will call out to summon, welcome, and meet, issuing a proclamation in the name of Yahweh to be spared and delivered, protected from danger, and saved from harm. Indeed, within the Mount of Zion, the signs posted along the way, and in Jerusalem, the source of guidance and teaching on reconciliation, there will be an escape with deliverance for a remnant, even rebirth for the newborns. Just as relationally and beneficially Yahweh said and has promised. And among the survivors within this remnant are those benefiting from the relationship Yahweh will have invited and welcomed. Yoel 2, 1 through 32. Of course, this pronouncement is best understood by the guidance provided in the Torah's first prophecy. God announced, with the narrative playing out over time, there will be Maoreth, luminaries to ponder the implications of light in the expanse, to expand the heavens and the spiritual realms, to understand the separation between, even discern the means to exclusion of the time of light, as it is distinct from the darkness of the night, with the deprivation of illumination and ensuing ignorance. And so they will exist as wonderful symbols, brilliant examples, and obvious signs, as illustrious exemplars of consent, offering miraculous proof. And for the Moedim, these appointed meeting times, for the restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony, as well as for days and for years. Therefore, they will exist for their enlightenment as luminaries, to support the expansion of the spiritual realm, to be an light, and to provide illumination and enlightenment upon the earth. And therefore, it will continue to exist like this thereafter, based upon what has preceded it. Bereshith, in the beginning, Genesis 1, 14 and 15. God acted and engaged to appoint for this particular task that which pertains to these two Maoreth, sources of illumination and enlightenment, who are Gedolim, substantial and empowering, important and influential, yes, a bit loud, very intense, but also distinguished. With Gadol, the greater, more distinguished and older, of the Maor, luminary, Salah, prominent and powerful, having dominion and authority, the one governing as sovereign by painting word pictures of the illuminating time, and with the Katan, the lesser, younger, and more recent Maor, luminary. Mimshala, prominent and powerful, having dominion and authority as well, as one authorized to lead through illustrative insights. This time for the time of darkness, when the light is not known, along with the heavenly powers. Bereshith 1:16. The Almighty, he offered them as a gift, placing them in this position for this ongoing purpose. in the vast expanse and extensive and solid reasons and as evidence of the spiritual realm, to provide light and enlightenment upon the land and the earth. Genesis 1:17. Govern, showing leadership by offering proverbial, illustrative, and memorable pictures comprised of words during the light of the day and through the darkness of that night, providing a contrast to set apart as separate and distinct, or to expel and exclude, all through understanding, discernment, by making intelligent connections leading to comprehension and understanding the light, in addition to wisely discerning insights during the obscuring darkness. God, he saw that indeed this was good. It's beneficial and productive. It's useful, pleasing, and marvelous. Barashith, in the beginning. Genesis 1:14 through 18. And such is the story of the Luminaries. I thank you for listening.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.